Well, hello everyone. For this week's rant, we're going to head to the mailbox. Now, today's mail comes in the form of voicemail. It was a message that was left on the answering machine anonymously at the Big Valley Creation Science Museum. Now, because it was left anonymously, we are left to guess as to who on earth this person is, where they were calling from, what they looked like, etc. So I made my best guess.
I'm just here to make a complaint about how stupid and ridiculous all your beliefs are about creationism. It's just, you're like you're a buffoon. You know what I mean? You're a buffoon. Right? You're wrong. Why don't you read a book? Why don't you read a real book besides the Bible, which is a bunch of BS, alright? Seriously, why don't you read a real college-level book? How dare you think you can sit there and argue with a PhD in evolution and molecular biology? You think you can argue with that? Those are real qualified human beings to talk.
Clearly a sane individual. Emotional reactions like that speak volumes. I mean, this person felt threatened by something. Presumably something they saw or read in the Big Valley Creation Science Museum. Now I wonder what it was that he read that made him feel so threatened. He talks about reading college-level books, but if he had asked, he would have found out that the plaques in the Big Valley Creation Science Museum were actually written and peer-reviewed and edited by experts in their field from around the world. In fact, some of those people were actually authors of university textbooks. He spoke of genetics, so maybe it was the display on the DNA that made him feel threatened. All we did was point out that the DNA, like a book, had to have an intelligent source. After all, books of information don't just appear out of nowhere, they have an author. Blueprints, which really is what the DNA is, it's blueprints on how to build an organism, blueprints don't just show up without an engineer. And so we asked the readers and left them with the question, where did the information in the DNA come from? We then went on to present and point out that DNA actually has complex repair systems that go along with it. These complex repair systems remove mutations or errors from the DNA. Wait a minute, evolution requires errors in the DNA to thrive and exist. So that removes evolution. But if you remove the repair mechanism, then the errors accumulate rapidly and they kill the organism along with the evolution that was supposedly happening. Now, these are scientific facts. So why would he feel threatened by scientific facts?
On this issue, how dare you read a 2,000-year-old book and think you can compete with modern molecular genetics?
Actually, we weren't using a 2,000-year-old book to compete with modern molecular genetics. In fact, we were using modern molecular genetics to affirm the 2,000-year-old book. He kept ranting about molecular biologists, PhDs in their field. Well, presumably he wasn't talking about people like Dr. Kevin Anderson, a molecular biologist and a PhD in his field, who happens to be a young Earth creationist and actually agrees with what we say in the Big Valley Creation Science Museum. Presumably, he didn't mean Dr. Jonathan Sanford, co-discoverer and inventor of the gene gun and author of the book Genetic Entropy and the Mystery of the Genome. Yes, boys and girls, the whole point of this book is that we could not have evolved, and that's from a molecular biologist. Everything about the true distribution of mutations argues against their possible role in forward evolution. In fact, the entire point of the book is that we are not evolving, we're actually de-evolving. We're deteriorating from a molecular genetics perspective.
That is just the most insane thing. That's like trusting a hillbilly to build a rocket. You don't do it. If the hillbilly's like, oh, hey, I think I know how to build a rocket better than a NASA engineer who has a PhD in aerotechnology.
Oh, come on. This has nothing to do with a hillbilly building a rocket. Building a rocket's based on engineering. Engineering is based on things that are measurable, repeatable, predictable. Evolution is none of these things. Evolution is nothing more than wishful thinking of a fairy tale.
You'd be like, well, no, you're not qualified to talk on this. Why don't you go back and grow some tobacco or something, all right? Do something good with that.
Actually, the people who helped build the Creation Museum and helped to write the plaques in it were most certainly qualified for their positions. People like Dr. Gary Parker, who was once a hardcore atheist and evolutionist. The guy had Christian students in his class crying because he was so aggressive in his evolutionary teaching. Yet later on, his own research convinced him that evolution couldn't possibly be true. This was from a guy who was writing university textbooks on DNA and genetics in the 60s. This guy made several predictions about genetics that were only now we were finding out to be true. The fact that this guy is now a young Earth creationist the result of his own research, should make one stop and wonder what it was that he discovered or found out that convinced him that evolution couldn't possibly be true and creation had to be correct. A quick trip to the Big Valley Creation Science Museum will probably give you an idea of some of the things he found out.
So maybe you religious people should go back to doing what you good at, sitting there praying and having faith, which is pretty much just believing something that you have no proof to believe in.
Speaking of blind faith, apparently this gentleman is one of those who believes that a frog turned into a prince. Now, you're welcome to believe this blind faith, just please don't call it science, as there's no evidence supporting this faith.
Don't you dare try and bring your religious BS. If you want to be an idiot, fine, believe it on your sense, but don't you try and dare push it on other people, on the innocent people who have no idea of what's going on. You know, they don't have any time to do the research.
2:40 p.m. Friday.
Sadly, our caller went overtime and got cut off. But I would encourage everyone to come to the Big Valley Creation Science Museum. Strangely, the whole purpose of the museum is to get people to think, to get people to ask questions. We present evidence, we let you decide. So hopefully some of the viewers here watching this video will take the time to go see the Big Valley Creation Science Museum, and perhaps you'll see what the caller was so upset about. Maybe the caller realized there was a creator, and he was going to give an account for his life one day. How about you?